Hi, I'm Catie Frates. I am your child's science teacher this year at either RISE or HEED. The reason I teach science is because I love science. God called me to it. And so I want to make science as exciting and fun as possible while your student is still getting a really good education in science taught from a biblical perspective so that it doesn't undermine their faith, which happens in so many situations. In the high school classes, it shouldn't change for a long time. If you're in physical science, you need the second edition physical science book and the tests, the solutions and tests. You need both books. Your student cannot do what they need to without both books. And there's been some confusion, so please make sure your child has both books. If they're in biology, they also need the Apologia second edition biology and the solutions and tests. So they need both books for biology. And if they're in chemistry, make sure that you buy by Berean Publishers, Discovering Design with Chemistry. And once again, you need the answer key and tests. So you need both textbooks in high school science. And even for the middle school class, you need the textbook and the teacher supplement so that you have the answer key for grading purposes. When we get into the high school classes, now we have to have some thorough accountability and recording because you have to have proof that your child has taken a high school science with lab for colleges that they apply to. So in the process of doing that, you want to keep all of their graded homework and tests and lab write-ups in a portfolio, a notebook, so that they have that in case it's ever asked for. And it has happened to me in the past that students have been asked to produce proof that they took the class. When they have produced their portfolio, the graded work that's in there with their lab write-ups, we have never had a problem. And I've been doing this for over 20 years. So that notebook is very, very important. Let's start with physical science, which is the first high school science that we offer. Physical science, they're going to need a calculator. They are told not to do the math by hand in that book, but they have to show all their work. They have to show the final answer with units or it is incorrect. So the procedure that they get there with is actually more important than the arithmetic itself. And that's why they have to show all their work and they have to use a calculator. As they follow the syllabus, they will read through, let's say, in every module will be covered in 2 weeks. And that goes in general for biology, chemistry, and physical science. They will read what they're told to in the syllabus. They will, while they're reading that, they will answer the on-your-own questions in the physical science and biology, the comprehension check questions in the chemistry. In physical science, as they do those on-your-own problems, the answers are found in the back of each chapter. As the student does the work, I would like them to go to the back and check and make sure the work is being done correctly. Particularly in math, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So it's extremely important that they go ahead and check after each problem to make sure they're doing the work correctly, because I don't want them to pattern it incorrectly and then figure it out later and they've done a whole bunch of problems incorrectly. So it's very important that they check with each time that they do it. Now, some of you moms are already cluing into the fact that that means that you're not grading them for accuracy because they have the answers available to them. When you grade their homework, which you have to grade their homework, please, that is done for thoroughness and completeness and that it's done neatly. But once again, they have the answers available to them, so it's not for accuracy. I would like them to come up with their own short definitions for words rather than memorizing the definitions that are in the book. They'll have a better chance of remembering that. They are to read the experiments within the text as they're reading it, and because we will do the experiments in class. If in the syllabus it says prep for class 1, in all of the high school science classes, that means, and it's in the syllabus explained there, but it means that they put the number of the lab, the title of the lab, then they will put Roman numeral 1, purpose, and they will put the purpose of the lab. Usually that's described in the introduction of the lab, or even from the name of the lab, they can frequently determine the purpose of the lab. After that, Roman numerals 2 and 3 will be accomplished in class. And so they'll bring that prep for class 1 into class. As we do the experiment in class, then they'll do Roman numeral 2, and they'll do their observations, and they'll record what they see. They can draw pictures, whatever it takes. And the Roman numeral 3 is the conclusion. It's what they're supposed to have learned in the process of doing that lab. That can usually be found in the text directly after the lab in the book, or we will discuss it in class frequently so that they can get it there. So that would be the completion of the lab write-up. They will go ahead and the second week read the second half of that chapter or module, and they will complete the study guide. The study guide is found at the back of the chapter. In chemistry, it's called the review problems. They will always do that at the end of each chapter when they finish it. What the study guide and review problems provide is a format as to what they should know to be prepared for their test. Once again, I would like them to be able to check the answers to their study guide before they take their test. In physical science, we will go over those in class together because we have the time. That's not the case in biology and chemistry, so we'll come back to that. So in physical science, they will read through what they're supposed to, always doing the on-your-own problems, but they can check their answer in the back of the chapter. Then they're going to read all the experiments within it, but don't do them because we'll do them in class. The second week, they'll finish the chapter. They'll go ahead and complete the study guide. When they come into class, we will finish the chapter together. We will go over the study guide problems. Then they are to go home. They are to study anything they still need so that they feel competent, especially on answering anything in the study guide problems. And then they will take their test without the book. The whole idea to the honors credit with lab is that they're taking this without the book when they're taking tests. They will close the book, they will take their test, and then they will bring it back with them to class the following week after we pray on the third week or the week after a test, and they will always take a test at the end of a chapter. After we pray, then we will go ahead and grade that test together in class. Then they are to pass it over. The assistant in my classes will record their grades strictly so that we can tell that they're doing okay. I need to know if your child is not doing okay, and that's why we're recording these grades. Ultimately, you are going to give their grade at the end of the year. You will average those scores and give them their grade at the end of the year. And that is described to you in your either the parent letter, I think it's in the parent letter that describes to you the grading that I suggest. But once again, remember, I work for you. I'm here to teach your child science for you. So I'm always more than happy to flex in whatever way you need me to, as long as it doesn't affect the whole class. I'll flex whatever way that I can to help your student to accomplish what you would like for their high school science. And so then they would take their test, they would read the first half of the next chapter as it's listed in the book, do their homework, and then they would come back to class the next week. That's physical science. Biology and chemistry are different because in biology and chemistry, the work is much more intense and the labs are much more intense and very often very important to the concepts that they're learning. And therefore, I had to find a way to shorten the time we spent in class so we have more time for the important points and concepts and to do the labs. So what we've done is we've shifted gears in biology and chemistry. When they do their work, let's do biology next. When biology does their work, biology is extremely vocabulary heavy. I do not want them memorizing the vocabulary definitions in the book. I want them to come up with the shortest, fewest words that they can, pictures when possible, so that they can know what these concepts actually mean. Once again, they will read all the on your own problems and answer those and read the experiments as they go through. At the end of the chapter, after we spent 2 weeks on most modules, they will go ahead and do their study guide. And then when they do their study guide, they are to go online and watch me going over that study guide so that we don't spend that time in class. That avails us more time in class for our labs. And then they will come back into class. We will finish the chapter together. If they have any questions on the study guide, we will go over them. And then we will go ahead and they are to take their test after that second class where we finished going over it. They'll take their test, then they are going to grade their test with me online, and I would prefer it if you sat with them while they graded the test. It just takes away any temptation, and therefore, and plus if they have questions, they can ask you. So you will grade the test with me online, you will go through and answer those questions, please, the way I answered them, not necessarily the way the answer key answers those test questions, because I go through things that may be different than what's in the book, and I do have a degree in science, so I feel competent to do that. And so please go by the answers that I give. They will come up with a grade on that biology test. Then that test has to come back with them to class the following week, because my assistant will record those grades once again so that I know your student is doing okay. I just want to make sure we're not losing anybody in the process. And then after they take their test and they grade the test online with me at home, closed book once again, then they will bring it back to class. We will record that. They'll go ahead and read the first half of the next module, and then we will proceed to go on like that. Frequently in biology, the observations will be drawings and labeling things, so it will look differently. And your grading on that, again, is for thoroughness and that it's neat and complete. All right, then we get to chemistry. Now, chemistry, there's a lot of math involvement. They have to show all their work. When they do labs, they will actually, in their observations, have observations and calculations, and we will usually do those together in class, or the book will lead them through that. And then they'll also have a conclusion. Chemistry students need to show all their work. They need to have the answer key available to them at all times, so that as they're learning it, they can check the problems and make sure that they're doing it correctly. Once again, perfect practice makes perfect. They need to be practicing these problems perfectly so that they're modeling them correctly in their minds. Chemistry is such that they really don't want to fall behind. The other two classes, physical science and biology, if there was a family emergency or something happened and they had to get a module behind, they could probably get caught up. In chemistry, that is not the case. They really need to keep up, and it really is a marathon. When they do the problems, let's say the first half of the chapter, they'd read through the experiments once again, they'd answer all the comprehension check problems, and then the second week we would complete the chapter. There are review questions at the end of the chapter to prepare them for their test. Once again, they would go online for me to go over those review problems with them, and then they would come to class. We would finish the chapter together. I would answer any questions they may have. I also took the time to do the extra review problems, which are found in the test booklet, test and solutions booklet. I have done those. Those are online so that your student, if they still feel fuzzy about getting a hold of these concepts, can go ahead and do the rest of the extra review problems too before their test. Then they would study for and take their test once they feel competent. When they take their test, they are to grade it online with me, with you sitting next to them once again, showing all their work. If you have any questions on that, just have them bring that back into class. They need to bring it into class anyway, because once again, we need to have my assistant record their scores the following week. For grading in chemistry, it's gotten very confusing. What I would suggest you do, and this can go for biology as well, is when you grade it with the online grading with me, then if you take the number of points that he suggests each problem is and take off whatever points you're missing, and then take the total points you got correct, divide it by the total points that he states the test is worth at the end, and then multiply that by 100, you will get your grade. So if I'm going to give you an example. If I'm looking at the first test, the solutions for the first test, at the very end of that, it tells you that the number of points on this test is 28. Let's say you missed 3 things that were counted as 3 points. Then you would say 25, so 28 minus 3 is 25, so you'd say 25 points, what you got right, divided by 28, which is the total points, times 100, and that will give you your percentile on your chemistry test. And that same method would work for the biology test as well, or you can use the one that I offer them in the grading. So I wanted to give you the straight scoop on that because his grading system confuses me, so I would suggest that. With all these classes, you will initial next to the syllabus that your child's work is done to your satisfaction. For RISE and for HEED, you will go ahead and check the toolbox so that the assistant can see it's done. And they will always bring their tests, their completed graded tests, except for physical science, we'll grade it together. But they will always bring their tests back the following week so that that can be recorded by the assistant in class. So your job is to, in high school, is to make sure their work's being done and to sit down with them. In other words, to make sure that they've accomplished what was in the syllabus to your satisfaction, and then you will mark that accordingly, depending on which program you're in. And then make sure they take their tests, go through the review problems, take their tests, send it back to class with them so that that can be recorded, that they're doing their lab write-ups, and that those are being put into their portfolio. I think that that's what you need to know on how to do the homework. So physical science, you don't have any extra online work. We will go over the study guides in class and we'll grade the tests in class. Biology and chemistry, they will actually do their study guide or review problems online, and then after they take their test, they will closed book, they will grade that online and bring that back to class with them. I hope that is the information you needed. If you have questions in the process of grading the test, your student just needs to bring that to me the following week and I'll be happy to answer that question. If they have a question, there's a really good chance somebody else does too, so please have them ask their questions. I want to help them. I want to help them succeed. I want to help them really be able to enjoy science so that they can give God the glory in the process, even if it's not their thing. I understand that. I'd like to make it as fun and practical as possible. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of your child's education, and I will prayerfully work diligently to be a blessing to your student and to your family in this way. Once again, thanks very much, and may Jesus Christ richly bless you.